Pass on file. File item 21, SCR 64. Pass on file. File item 22, SCR 71. Senator Gaines? Not at his desk. File item 24, SJR number 13. Senator De Leon? Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Joint Resolution 13 by Senator De Leon relative to voting.
Senator De Leon.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, we the people, the first three words that start our U.S. Constitution, a touchstone phrase that expresses the desire of our nation to be a free and representative democracy. Nearly 230 years ago, after the Constitution was signed, we still struggle to truly understand those words and make them meaningful to all excluded communities. Who's in and who's out when it comes to we the people. The perfect union envisioned by our founding fathers shunned slaves and women of all creeds and colors who were denied the benefits and responsibilities of citizenship. Since then, generations of Americans have fought to expand our notion of exclusion through street protest, civil disobedience in the courts, in the state legislature, as well as in the Congress. Men and women, advocates and activists have died and put their lives on the line to bring representative democracy to all individuals, but in particular to those who have historically been excluded in this nation. Still, we constantly find ourselves in a state of turmoil, establishing the American experience of fairness and equality for all. That is why I'm deeply concerned by the inexplicable decision by the U.S. Supreme Court to hear a challenge brought by plaintiffs in Texas to a long-standing democratic principle of one person, one vote. Since it was first affirmed 51 years ago by California's own Chief Justice, Earl Warren's Supreme Court, one person, one vote has been widely articulated and consistently upheld tenet of our nation's Constitution. Before that time, political districts across the nation were arbitrary and imbalanced, and tens of millions were unrepresented. This challenge now is nothing more than a cynical and transparent effort to turn back the clock on decades of legal precedent and return an unjust and unequal system of redistricting, one that could greatly disadvantage diverse and urban communities and deprive millions of American residents, many of whom are either Latino or Asian American, of political representation. What is at stake here, colleagues, in the Texas case is the very way we divvy up political power in the United States. For the past half-century, the notion of equal representation has compelled us all to count all people living in the state and place them in electoral districts of roughly the same size. In California, overturning one person, one vote could lead to a system of political segregation that only counts 3/5 of our population and essentially ignores the rest. Now, when I walk in my district among the people of the 24th Senatorial District, I can't tell who's a citizen and who's not. I can't tell who's a legal resident and who's not, because the question never comes to my mind. What does occur to me is that I am the representative, the political representative and the elected representative, serving nearly 1 million constituents of different hues, of different religions, histories, as well as journeys. And Chief Justice was right. Each and every one of them counts. The court should swiftly reject the cynical attack on one person, one vote. This resolution, Senate Joint Resolution number 13, makes it clear to the United States Supreme Court that Californians believe that all people, not just adults, who can register to vote, deserve equal protection under our laws and fundamental political representation. This measure passed out of the Senate Judiciary Committee on a unanimous bipartisan vote. Madam President, as well as colleagues, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, sir. Senator Monning.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, I want to thank the Pro Tem for bringing this forward. Just briefly, a couple of comments in support. This seeks to reverse established law that recognizes all residents of our nation are afforded due process rights, They're protected by the Equal Protection Clause. And for purposes of organizing electoral districts, we count everybody. That includes children who haven't reached the age of majority or the right to vote. And yet, our votes and our representation of those children is critical to secure funding for education and other rights, including federal contributions for health care support. The other thing, members, we enlist and welcome the service of non-citizen soldiers who put their lives on the line and indeed sacrificed their lives, most recently in Iraq and Afghanistan. If they're willing to make the ultimate sacrifice, their presence in our districts should be counted and recognized as well. Members, I urge your aye vote on SJR 13.
Thank you. Senator Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Madam President and colleagues. As the chair, I stand as chair of the Senate Judiciary and as chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus. You know, when this country was founded, the right to vote existed only for white males who owned property. We have come a long way since that point in time to recognize that just because you do or don't own property doesn't mean you're the only people who have a voice. It was also a time when an African American represented 3/5 of a person, and hopefully we've come a long way there too. It also recognizes the evolution that we've had when it took how many years for women to get the right to vote. And so here we are in 2015, having to send our strong opinion to the United States Supreme Court that we should not and cannot go back to a point where we start selectively deciding whose voice, whose existence is going to matter in this country. In a democracy, it is the voice of the people, young, old, black, white, male, female, people. That's who we are. That's what we are. In fact, it was in 1964, 50 years ago, that then Chief Justice, a fellow named Earl Warren, who had been the governor of the great state of California, who reiterated that it would be one person, one vote, back in 1964 in the case of Reynolds versus Sims. Are we 50 years later going to go backwards? And the answer should be a resounding no. When we talk about the principle of one person, one vote, we refer to not just the literal right to vote, but the right to be counted. When we do our every 10-year vote count, we do our census, we make a point, we pride ourselves in finding who are the people living in this country, because each of them, whether they are registered to vote or able to vote, they are people living within this great nation. And we are a nation of human beings. And if nothing else, here we have honored people who've come from all over the world. And that is the fabric of our great state and our great society. To now distinguish and discriminate once again after we have come so far is absolutely inexplicable. And so I too want to thank our President Pro Tem for bringing this item forward, and I hope that we send a resounding message to the United States Supreme Court that we will not go back. We must recognize and affirm the principles upon which this great country not only was founded, but to which we have evolved, so that women's voices are heard, so that people of color, their voices are heard, so people whose sexual orientation may be different than yours or mine are heard, because we are one human society, and the Supreme Court needs to know that. With that, I would urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Senator Leno.
Thank you, Madam President. This Texas challenge in court to the longstanding principle of one person, one vote is most disturbing and seriously challenging to our very democratic foundation. Section 2 of the 14th Amendment says, quote, representatives shall be appointed among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment says that no person shall be denied equal protection under the law. And there are other provisions in the 14th Amendment that make reference to citizen. But for this, it is clearly person. As has been already referred to, the Republican icon, Earl Warren, as Chief Justice, said that of all the decisions that were made in his court during his time on it, that those of the most importance were of this subject matter. It's not even clear where these folks are going. Would it be the number of eligible voters, or the number of registered voters, or the number of those who are registered to vote who voted in the last election? It's not clear. And do they seriously propose that our children are not worthy of representation, just as their mothers would not have been worthy prior to their victory in winning the vote? I'm reminded in George Orwell's 1945 dystopian and allegorical novel, Animal Farm, where he reflects upon the Russian Revolution of 1917 and is critical of Joseph Stalin's Soviet era. And the story is famous for the line, "All animals are created equal, except some animals are created more equal than others." Is that really where our U.S. Supreme Court is thinking of going? I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Senator Pan, followed by Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President, members. I, too, speaking in favor of this very important resolution. I think certainly as an Asian American, I want to just align myself with the remarks of our pro tem in his introduction, but also as a father and pediatrician, I'm actually very concerned about the fact that we're not going to be considering children, who we often talk on this floor as being our future. And I think also as we wrestle with the issues of our day, too often are undercounted in many other ways. But at least hopefully we can stand here united and say that they should at least count equally when it comes to how we portion our districts and how we do in terms of our politics, that we value our children, and that's been long-standing precedent. So again, I urge support for this very important resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Huff.
Thank you, Madam President, members. Were I to write this resolution, it would probably be worded a tad different, but that's like much of the business that we do here in the state capitol. But looking at the underlying principle of one person, one vote is an issue that I can stand and support. I too am concerned about the Supreme Court weighing in on this, particularly when we in California have done so much to get to where we are, and we have such a diverse population. Within the last couple of years, I've been working with some undocumented parents down in the southern part of my district, dealing with education equality and a noble cause, dealing with parent trigger. I don't know where they would have fallen otherwise, but I know they need representation, and I've tried to be there for them in that struggle to get a fair education for their kids. So I rise in support of this and ask for the rest of you to support it as well.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion or debate? Senator De Leon, would you like to close?
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, I think everyone feels very strongly on the Senate floor, irrespective of your hue, irrespective of your geographical representation, irrespective of where your roots originate from. We're all Americans and we're all Californians, proud. And the strength of our great state, the Golden State, is our diversity. Whether you're Russian, whether you're Armenian, extraction is German, Scottish, Welsh, Eastern Europe, Canada, Mexico, whether you're part of the great black migration from the South, seeking a better place, fleeing the Jim Crow laws, Asia, wherever it is. California is that destination for all individuals, both domestic and international migration. That's who we are, and it's our strength. And as stated earlier, the great Republican Earl Warren, who became Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court, had it right. One person counts. We've got to count every individual, irrespective of who they are and where they come from. We don't deny political representation of individuals based on citizenship, residency, the color of your skin, or religion, your sexual identification. That's not who we are in the state of California. With this Senate joint resolution, we send a message clearly to the U.S. Supreme Court. Who we are, and we are proud of being who we are, Democrats and Republicans alike, together as one, defending all individuals. With that, I respectfully ask, Madam President, for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any objection to the use of unanimous roll call? Yes. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll on this measure.
Allen. Aye. Anderson. Bates. Aye. Bell. Aye. Berryhill. Block. Aye. Canella. Aye. De Leon. Aye. Fuller. Gaines. Aye. Galgiani. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Hall. Hancock. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Hertzberg. Aye. Hill. Aye. Wesso. Huff. Aye. Jackson. Aye. Lara. Aye. Leno. Aye. Leva. Aye. Liu. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Mendoza. Mitchell.
Aye.
Aye. Monning. Aye. Morlock. Aye. Morrell. Wynn. Aye. Nielsen. Aye. Pan. Aye. Pavley. Roth. Aye. Runner. Stone. Vidak. Aye. Wykowski. Aye. Wolk. Anderson, aye.
We call the absent members, please.
Berryhill. Aye. Fuller. Hall. Wesso. Mendoza. Morrell. Pavley. Runner. Stone. Wolk.
Please call the absent members.
Fuller. Hall. Wesso. Mendoza. Morrell. Pavley. Runner. Stone. Wolk. So aye.
Senator De Leon asks this measure be placed on call. File item 25, SCR 72, Senator Gaines, not at his desk. File item 26, SJR 12, Senator Pan, pass on file. SGR 27, file item 27, SR number 35, Senator Pan, pass on file. File item 28, SR 36, Senator Morrell, not at his desk. We will move on, colleagues, to Assembly third reading. The first item we will take up on third reading is file item number 31, ACR 57. Senator Monning, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Concurrent Resolution 57 by Assemblymember Ashajian relative to Viral Hepatitis Awareness Day.
Senator Monning.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I'm pleased to present ACR 57, which declares May 19th, 2015 as Viral Hepatitis Awareness Day. Individuals with the infection are at high risk of severe liver disease, liver cancer, and liver failure, and many do not even know they are infected. ACR 57 will help educate Californians about the risks of viral hepatitis and the need to get tested by declaring a day as Viral Hepatitis Awareness Day. Members, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Is there any discussion or debate?
Madam President.
Senator Pan.
Thank you, Madam President, members. I too stand and support this very important resolution. Hepatitis B disproportionately actually impacts the API community because hepatitis B is endemic in Asia. In order for us to combat hepatitis, not only do we need to have effective treatments, also vaccination for both hepatitis A and B is present and has been effective in reducing the burden of disease. Hepatitis B, for example, leads to cirrhosis and liver cancer in people, and particularly if they catch us in young age. And so, again, as we recognize the importance of viral hepatitis, we should also be advocating for measures that help both prevent and treat these diseases. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Senator Monning, would you like to close?
Respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the use of unanimous roll call? Oh, we got to put them all on call. Got you. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Allen. I. Anderson. I. Bates. I. Bell. Berryhill. Block. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. Galgioni. I. Glazer. I. Hall. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. Jackson. I. Lara. I. Leno. I. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. Mitchell. I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. Wynn. I. Nilsson. Pan. I. Pan. I. Pavley. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. I. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Bell, aye.
Call the absent members.
Berryhill. I. Block. Gaines. Hall. Huff. Mendoza. Morrell. Pavley. Wolk.
Senator Monty moves the call. Moving on to file item number 32, AGR 14. Senator Lara, Mr. Secretary, please read.
Assembly Joint Resolution 14 by Assembly Member Chu relative to the Export-Import Bank of the United States.
Senator Lara.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, it is with great pleasure that I present HAR 14 to recognize the important role of the Export-Import Bank of the United States to our economy. The Export-Import Bank, as it is known, supports thousands of jobs and over $1 billion worth of exports through our nation's ports, in particular the ports of California. In fact, the Export-Import Bank has supported over $400 billion in U.S. exports over the last 70 years. This resolution calls upon Congress and the President to support legislation reauthorizing the Export-Import Bank. HAR 14 has strong support from the California Chamber of Commerce, as well as many leading manufacturers such as Boeing and Caterpillar. I respectfully ask for your aye votes.
Discussion or debate? Seeing none. Oh, did I hear a yes? Seeing none, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Anderson. No. Bates. Bell. I. Berryhill. I. Block. Canella. I. De Leon. I. Fuller. I. Gaines. Galgioni. Glazer. I. Hall. Hancock. I. Hernandez. I. Hertzberg. I. Hill. I. Wesso. I. Huff. Jackson. I. Lara. I. Leno. Leyva. I. Liu. I. McGuire. I. Mendoza. Mitchell.
Aye.
I. Monning. I. Morlock. I. Morrell. Wynn. Nilsson. I. Pan. I. Pavley. Roth. I. Runner. I. Stone. I. Vidak. Wykowski. I. Wolk. Wolk, aye. Fuller. I. To no.
Senator Lara moves the call. File item 35, AB 730. Senator Hancock, pass on file. File item 36, AB 87. Senator Leno is not at his desk.